McPhail gets the ball, beats two defenders, lobs over Johnston, and it's a goal.
Picking an all-time greatest 11 is a common enough pastime for football fans of any club. But as time marches on and heroes of the distant past become no more than whispered names, half remembered by grandfathers and great-grandfathers long since passed on, many a great player drops out of the reckoning. The claims of generations of players idolised by fans of the day are not so much passed over as never on the table in the first place. Several members of the Celtic team that lined up against Rangers in the league title playoff match at Hampden on the 6th of May 1905 would have been remembered by a few Celtic fans well into the post-war era, and players such as Celtic's record appearance holder Alec McNair, Jimmy Napoleon McMenemy, Jimmy Quinn, Peter Summers and David Hamilton would have seen their claims to a place in the greatest ever Celtic 11 pushed against even the Lisbon Lions. The Scottish Cup was still at this time the most prestigious tournament north of the border, and it was only in 1900 that Queen's Park, often referred to as the Premier Club, resolutely clinging to amateur status, deigned to take part in the league, after winning the last of their then record 10 Scottish Cups. Celtic had won the Cup for the fourth time in 1904, a Jimmy Quinn hat-trick beating Rangers 3-2 in the final. Celtic was not yet 20 years old in 1905, and while they were unquestionably one of the country's leading clubs, it had been 7 long years since they had last won the league, since when Rangers had won 4 titles in a row, with the last 2 taken by Hibernian and Third Lanark. The rivalry between Celtic and Rangers was already at this nascent stage in the development of the Scottish game beginning to dominate. At the beginning of season 1904-05, they had each won the Scottish Cup 4 times, while Celtic had 4 league titles to Rangers', well, let's call it 4.5, after they shared the very first title with Dumbarton in 1891. Matches between the two had become increasingly intense over the past few seasons, although the sectarian element to their rivalry had yet to emerge from the shadows. Rangers were a mainly Protestant side, but so were most Scottish clubs, and there was no real sense as yet that they were the standard bearers for Scottish Protestantism against the most definitely upstart Irish Catholic Celts. Earlier in the season, the two had met in the Scottish Cup semi-final at Celtic Park. Celtic had lost right-back Donny MacLeod to injury late in the first half, and the 10 men were trailing 2-0 with less than 10 minutes remaining when centre-forward Jimmy Quinn was ordered off for kicking Rangers left-back Craig. The Scottish referee reported on the 27th of March 1905. While on the ground, the latter was rushed into by the Celt centre, and, apparently, when trying to save himself from Quinn's boot, he held him by the leg. Quinn tried to pull himself free, but Craig still clung to the leg. Then the Celt lifted his free foot and dealt the Ranger a vicious kick. Referee Robertson at once ordered Quinn off the field, and the crowd, resenting the decision, scaled the railing and invaded the field. The referee and several of the Rangers players were assaulted, the ball was stolen, and the corner flags were taken away. After the players came back on to complete the match, the pitch was invaded again, and the horrified Celtic directors conceded the match. Rangers lost the final 3-1 after a replay to Third Lanark. The last thing the authorities wanted in the spring of 1905 was another clash between Glasgow's Big Two, but that's what they got when they finished level at the top of the league on 41 points apiece after the 26-match programme had been completed. The Glasgow Herald of the 8th of May 1905 reported, "The tie for the League Championship, which was decided on New Hampden on Saturday, drew a crowd of about 30,000, which was much in excess of what could have been expected in view of the prolongation of the competition beyond the limits of public interest." At this time, the rules stipulated a play-off for the title, as had happened in 1890-91 when Rangers and Dumbarton had played out a 2-2 draw, after which the title was shared between them. If either goal average or goal difference had been in use, Rangers would have been champions, with a goal difference of +55 to Celtic's +37, and a goal average of 2.96 to Celtic's 2.19. The pivotal match in the normal league season took place at Ibrox on the 18th of February. A replay of the January the 1st fixture, which had to be abandoned after 70 minutes due to the crowd encroaching onto the pitch after a gate was broken down and an estimated 10 to 15,000 gained entry without paying. Doubles from Jimmy Quinn and Davy Hamilton gave Celtic a comfortable 4-1 win, which put them on 39 points to Rangers' 35, although Celtic had only one match to go while Rangers had 3. With both teams winning all their remaining matches, the trouble in the Scottish Cup tie at Celtic Park was still fresh in the mind, and an English referee, Mr Fred Kirkham of Preston, was brought up to take charge of the play-off. The teams lined up at 3:30pm for the decider: Celtic, Adams, Watson, Orr; McNair, Loney, Hay; Bennett, McMenemy, Quinn, Summers, Hamilton. Rangers: Sinclair, Fraser, Craig; Gourley, Stark, May; Robertson, Speedy, McCall, Donaghy, Smith. The first half finished scoreless, with most reports praising Rangers for their close combination play, while Celtic were more direct. But by all accounts, Sinclair was the busier of the two goalkeepers. The match burst into life shortly after half-time, with the Scotsman reporting, "The Parkhead forwards resumed their work with the same dash as had characterised their work in the first half, and while it was not of the same studied style as that of the Rangers, still it proved effective, McMenemy getting a soft shot past Sinclair after 20 minutes play." The cheering and excitement which greeted this success was only equalled by that which followed a couple of minutes later, when, following a corner, Sinclair was beaten for the second time by a deceptive shot from Hamilton from the vicinity of the corner flag, the keeper striking the ball against the inside of the post. 3 minutes later, Rangers pulled one back through Robertson, who scored from close range after a cross from future newsagent R.S. McCall. Thereafter, Celtic saw the match out, with Adams making one save of note from McCall, described by the Scottish referee as "a great shot at express speed, which Adams was lucky to save." Many of the papers praised the English referee for admonishing Hamilton and adding on a minute or two at the end after he deliberately kicked the ball out of play. The final whistle was greeted with a deafening roar from the Celtic support, and the Scottish referee snootily wrote, "Hamilton secured the ball at the close of the match. This ball-catching epidemic is being pushed to the point of absurdity." So Celtic secured their first league championship success since 1897-98. Of the 11 on the field, only left-back Willie Orr had experienced winning the championship before, but several of the others would go on to achieve legendary status as they added the next 5 league titles to that day's success, winning the league for a then record 6 successive seasons, a record that would stand until Celtic's 7th in a row in 1972. Alec McNair, right half that day in place of the injured Sonny Jim Young, would go on to become Scotland's finest fullback, and having only signed in the summer of 1904, he would make 604 appearances in a Celtic career that lasted until 1925. Together with goalkeeper Charlie Shaw and left-back Joe Dodds, he went on to form a formidable defence that was known as the Holy Trinity, a name that probably would not have been bestowed by any support other than Celtic's. This kind of devotion could still be seen, along with a touch of black humour, as late as the 1950s, when in response to Hibernian's exhilarating forward line being dubbed the famous Five, Celtic's was christened the Five Sorrowful Mysteries. The names of the half-back line of Young, Loney and Hay would trip off the tongue of a generation of Celtic supporters almost as easily as that of the forward line of Bennett, McMenemy, Quinn, Summers and Hamilton, who terrorised Scottish football for the next 3 years before Alec Bennett was allowed to depart for his spiritual home at Ibrox in the summer of 1908. It's often said that his move saw Willie Kivlikin come in the other direction, but Kivlikin signed for Celtic the year before in 1907. A fascinating character in his own right, Kivlikin would eventually become Celtic's club doctor and tended to the stricken John Thompson on the day of his tragic death in 1931. The league playoff match of the 6th of May 1905 was the game that kick-started a golden era for Celtic that would last until the end of World War I. It was very definitely a great Celtic day.